you'd like to ask me about that maybe I could give you some input on how I do it different. Does anybody have any questions about that? Okay, let's see, what are some of the other things that, so processes were, we spent a lot of time, processes are defined before so that customers were routed through according to that customer's questions and the staff's program assignment. Today that doesn't occur. As a supervisor, it doesn't matter to me how many customers are coming in. All my staff are able to see those customers for whatever reason. We don't use our customer service reps to monitor the work. We actually have the self-reliance workers see them at the time. So I'm not chasing all my time. I'm not setting up appointments. How many people do I have to have here? That's all gone away. What are some things? So I make adjustments every hour, not every month. I've talked about that. I rely on data every day to make sure the customers are getting benefits and services. Before, I would be doing that way later, or I would have all the reevaluations and I'd have to say, I need this many people, and it was too late because I didn't have that many people to get all the work done. We manage customer value rather than the case assignments. And I'm constantly involved today in the day-to-day process. And like I said, I have to see beyond my own space to be able to manage. So that's essentially how the life of a supervisor has changed. I much prefer this, and to be honest with you guys, when Russ and Lori asked me to come here to North Carolina to talk to you folks, I said I can't remember how it used to be. So for me, it's been really important. It's been a good walk down memory lane. And they said, you can't remember how it used to be, Medan? And I said, no, I can't remember how it used to be. But it wasn't a fun time back there, but we were able to, go through the changes and get to where we need to be. And I would just say one of the other key components, and I said it to somebody that said they needed to leave, it is so important that you know who your staff are, what their key strengths are. Where do you put those folks? Do you have folks that are better at doing that interview? They have some best practices. They're quicker at the interview process than maybe somebody else. Know your staff. Know who's the right person for the right job. Move people around. Talk to them about what they aspire to do. Maybe they don't like that particular program that they're in and they're better suited for a different program. For me, that's a key component as a supervisor, and it's been the best tool that I have, is to give them my time and find out who they are and where they need to be. And I don't mean at a personal level, I mean at a professional level. What is it that they do really well, and how far can they get me with what they're doing? So that is another key component of being a supervisor. Before, I didn't have the time to do that because I was always managing what we needed to do next. So that is another one.
Can I say something? I think supervisors are so important. I can talk about supervisors all day. There's a big change here, as Medan just described. There's new roles for supervisors. We're going to talk about some other new roles for other levels, but this is pretty big. And there were some supervisors that said, I'm not making this change. And that's okay. If you can, then don't stay here and be miserable, and don't make everybody else miserable either, because we are going this direction. So sometimes it's hard to make that change. And every one of us has the responsibility, at whatever level we work in. If we can't do this anymore, if this isn't for me, if this change I don't believe in, then let me look for something else. And that is respectable. And that's when I talk to people about that. I have a lot of respect for people that will do that. I had some supervisors I learned through this process that were not supervisors. And again, that supervisor level is extremely important. That is a level that really gets things done in the organization. Just an example, I had one supervisor that we were having all kinds of problems with the performance of staff and with this particular office. And as we were having discussions, she finally admitted the only reason I ever became a supervisor because back in those days it was the only way to get a new computer. And I was waiting for her to say, but I've grown into the role and I love being a supervisor, but those words never came. So she was still in the mode, I'm only doing this because I had to do it to get a new computer type of a thing. Well, and she didn't stay with us very much longer after that, but it's important because think of the people that were depending on her to lead them. And the work that they were doing, serving thousands of people that need our help. And that's the magnitude that we go to when we learn about why this is so important and why this change we're trying to make is so important. Why my role must change because this is the road to success.
One of the things off of what Russ said, I think that's important too, is sometimes as a supervisor, you want to get right down in there with the line staff, get in the trench and help them dig. And really, it's not our job to get down in that trench and help them dig. We really have to look and see, are we on the right path? I saw so many of my peers at my level that just put their head in the sand and wanted to get in the trench. And you can't. You have to be outside of that trench looking and making sure that your leadership, you're giving them the feedback that they need. You have to say the things that are hard to say. Being a supervisor is the hardest place. You have all the staff below that you need to motivate, lead, be a role model for, and then you have your boss that you need to say things to that sometimes aren't that good because they're going to go tell the business office, and you better have your facts straight and the details. But if you can't get past that point in the position that you guys are in currently, you need to really have a conversation with your direct supervisor, because it is so, so important to get what I call naked, because if you're not, then you're really hiding all those problems. And I really have that philosophy that I've been taught well. A problem really isn't a problem, it's an opportunity or a gap that can be changed and made into something better. Because if we didn't have any problems, we would never grow. And if we're not growing, then we're dying. And I don't know about you all, but I know that's coming someday, and I would just rather keep growing and finding new ways of doing things. So let's move on to the roles of SRSs. Self-reliance workers, eligibility workers. So today, they only touch a case when there's something actionable to do. Before, they held the case, they loved the case, they patted the case, they burped it, they changed its diaper, they graduated it from high school, they got it married. Anyhow, so that role has really, really changed with cases. They only touch it when there's something actionable to do. Today, they're the first person that someone talks to about applying for benefits. I'm sure you all have heard the experience of somebody coming to apply for benefits just to be told that they're over income, or maybe they don't meet the qualifications for the program. So in our old world, we would have them talk to a customer service rep that would tell them when the interview needed to be scheduled. Then they would come back, they would talk to the customer service rep again, and then maybe if they were lucky, they got to see a self-reliance specialist. And today I focus on what decisions need to be made for the customer. So when we talk about decisions, before we would wait for them to bring in the paperwork, but today we can say, well, I'm going to make this phone call for you to an employer to get your income, and that was a huge change for the self-reliance specialist. Today, the self-reliance specialists try to resolve information up front, spend time calling employers, landlords, and check interfaces to verify information and make a decision. They only ask for verifications at the last resort. We over-verified people to death. We over-verified people so much that their case was actually right, and then by the time we got the verifications, it was wrong, and then we asked for more verifications. So then the clerical person would get the paperwork, who would then maybe lose the paperwork, and then the customer would have to turn it in again, and then it would be sitting in a file somewhere that actually belonged to a different person. We don't do that anymore. We get the verifications at the point of contact. We try not to have that customer come back if we can at all avoid that. It's important, one, for them. They're already in an economical situation where it's hard for them to come in. And so we just try very hard to make that a one-stop shop. And focus on making same-day decisions as many times as possible. We do that about 70% of the time. So 7 times out of 10, the customer has their benefits and knows what they're going to get the next day. So that's pretty important for self-reliance specialists. I remember in the old model, you were like 25, 26, 27, 30, 40 days out, and that didn't feel good. Currently today, their priority is no longer your caseload, but rather the entire state's work, ensuring all backlogs and work are completed timely. And I'm not successful on my own. We rise and we fall together, and that really entirely is true. It's not based off of caseloads anymore, and that was really hard. And you folks have to know that for me, I've been through a couple of different teams. I have self-reliance specialists, and we had a specialized team that took care of our elderly population, and AEBD the older people that are on cash and all of that. Talk about a group of people that did not want to give up their caseload. You know, Mr. Smith knows me. He's been on my caseload for 10 years. What is he going to do when he doesn't know me anymore? And unfortunately, a lot of those workers retired or found other things to do. But it's amazing to me how resilient that portion of the population is also. We try to tell ourselves stories about our customers. And notice I don't use the word client. That's a pet peeve of mine. They are not our clients. They are our customers. And it's just so important for us to remember that we lead that shift and we lead that change. And that was a huge learning lesson for me, was that group of people that I supervised for a small amount of time, about a year and a half. And just to watch them be frustrated and then go through that process, take the time to listen to them, for them to vent. We're going to come out the other end. And today, that's actually not even, we don't even do the maintenance portion of that work. We do the intake of that, but it's actually hubbed out of a different location. So our customers that have been on those programs now for 15 years don't have a specific case manager, and they're getting along just fine. So that is something that I would tell you guys to keep in mind. So now we're going to move on to the role of customer service reps, right, Russ? Yep. So for the customer service